So good morning, everyone. My name is William Doby. I'm one of the student advisors, and welcome to you at UCalgary. So today we'll just be chatting about the undergraduate programs in education. Today with me we have Cynthia, Claire, and Caitlin, and I'll let you guys introduce yourself. So Cynthia, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
everybody.
everybody.
I feel that there's an echo there, but if you're not hearing it, then we're okay. Thanks, William, and thank you, William, and the panel for coming today, and all of you for taking this time. So for some of you, maybe early in the morning. Yes, I'm the Director of Student Experiences, which is a job that I love, working with all the student advisors, including William, in our office to support our students, which I think is the best job I have in the world. So I would be working with all of the students in our program in terms of if there's anything unusual with their program where they need some extra support vis-a-vis whatever's happening with their courses. It might be through health and wellness as well, or Student Success Center. I kind of stick handle all that, and we work together to do that. Before that, I actually was a teacher in both Edmonton and Calgary. I love teaching. I love working with students. So I feel very fortunate. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to talking with all of you today. Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Claire, would you like to go next?
All right, good morning, everyone. It's good to be here. Good to have everyone here. I am a student in the concurrent education program, currently in my third year, the secondary mathematics and education route. I am also the incoming ESA president, so I'll be looking forward to seeing all your faces next year.
Thank you. And Caitlin?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know it's a little early, but glad to see everyone here. I am also a student in the education program. I am in the after degree program in my first year of that, and my focus is secondary social studies. And yeah, I'm really glad to see everyone here.
Right on. Thank you so much. And yes, I'm one of the student advisors. So if you guys have questions about progression through a program and those different pieces, obviously I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But yeah, you'll come to myself and the other fellow student advisors that we have in the undergraduate programs in education. So just super quick for everyone, what is a BEd, right? So a Bachelor's of Education is an undergraduate degree. Typically, or the ones probably the majority of you are coming into, is 120 units, so it's about 4 years of study. One of the big highlights about a BEd, especially in Alberta, is that all BEds are K-12 certified, and they are required to teach K-12 in the province. So it doesn't matter if you go into the mathematics teachable, whether it's elementary or secondary or social studies or English, whatever those pieces are, at the end, you will be able to teach K-12 in the province. Again, that is in the province. If you're looking to go to a different province down the road, you'd be looking to get your certification in Alberta first, right? Finish your program, and then move your certification similar to a driver's license. And each province is a little bit different. Some do elementary and secondary, some do every 3 or 4 grades, but you would chat with that province that you're looking to move to if you're looking to change something. And I just quickly wanted to highlight the 3 different pathways that we have. We have a 4-year BEd program that encompasses both on-campus and community-based. We have a 5-year concurrent program, which means you can get 2 degrees in 5 years. That would be combined with either an arts degree, a science degree, or a kinesiology degree. And then we'll have a nice big list of all the different allowable combinations and majors on our website. And we also have a 2-year after degree program. So if you're in the 4-year program and you have a friend maybe who's in a Bachelor's of Arts in English and you're like, I just want to do the 4-year English piece, right? Because maybe you'll change when you're at the university, right? You can go to that 4-year Bachelor's of Arts in English, graduate from that program, and then come back to us and do the 2-year after degree if you would like. So those are the different options. All of them will allow you to teach K-12 in the province. Who and what you teach at the end of the day is going to be a hiring decision. So if you are in secondary mathematics and you apply for that secondary mathematics, you probably have a good chance of getting that position. But it's all about a hiring decision for like who and what you teach. So you're never pigeonholed and stuck to only be teaching, ECE for the rest of your life. If you want to change mid-career, you can certainly do that. Everyone loves to hear about field experience, so I'll quickly kind of brush up upon a little bit of field, knowing that you guys probably want to hear a little bit more from our panelists, so I do want to make sure we get into that quite quickly. So you actually have 4 field experiences in the entire program. So your field 1 is 2 weeks. It's a purely observational week. So what you're doing there is just going to the school. Sometimes it's just 1 school, sometimes it's 2 schools, and you're just observing for that entire time. That's it. Just to get your kind of bearings. When you go into field 2, then you're starting to teach, and you're typically teaching up to about 50% of the time. And you're working with your partner teachers to develop lesson plans and those kind of curriculum pieces. So that's what you're doing for your field 2. Field 3 and 4 goes up to 6 and 8 weeks, and you could be teaching 75 to 100% of the time for those pieces. Field 3 and Field 4 are the exact same classroom in the exact same school, so you get to stay with those students for an entire school year, which is fantastic to see the students kind of grow throughout the year, and you can go back and kind of reflect on your experiences with the same students. That's your field piece. Keep in mind that we will find those placements for you. You don't have to go out and actually go find a field placement. That's typically a common question is, do I need to go out and actually find my own school to go to? No, we will do that for you. No problem. And then just quickly, a great opportunity is probably my top 2 would be the teaching across borders. That's unique to us and unique to education. Some students are looking forward to doing maybe a semester abroad, and you can certainly do that through the international office that we have at the university. But we also have teaching across borders, which will allow you to actually go and volunteer and teach or experience that new culture around education in a different country. We do have some placements like in Quebec and those pieces as well. But if you're looking to go over to Australia or Europe or maybe down to South America or Asia, we have those experiences, and that would be in your last your last fall semester. So you would go and you would still do some schoolwork while you are abroad, but you would come back for your field experience because you have to do your field experience here in Alberta. But that's just a really quick kind of caption of what TAB is, right? It's a great opportunity just to experience that culture. So if you have questions about that, I'm certainly happy to help you with those closer to the end when we unmute everyone and kind of go back and forth with our questions. Otherwise, for other kind of EL opportunities that we have at the university, we have service, professional, land-based learning opportunities, fantastic mentorship programs that you can be partnered with an upper year education student, or if you're an upper year education student, we can actually partner you with a in-service teacher or a professional in the community if you're looking to just get that mentorship piece. So we have those as options. And lots of opportunities to receive that co-curricular credit, kind of build that network just outside of field. There's other opportunities like your EL pieces, and work with children, youth. We can go to TELUS Spark if you want. We have a Philharmonic Orchestra EL opportunity, lots of different pieces on our website. So I really encourage everyone to take a peek at those to really kind of help enhance and customize your program. Okay, now I have a quick video to play from Central. Okay. To the next slide. Perfect. The panel piece, my favorite part. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to have our panel members. I'll ask them a few questions, and we'll kind of go through maybe kind of Cynthia, Claire, Caitlin. Really depends on the question, and I'll just pick on one of the panelist members to answer, but we'll make sure that we get everyone's perspective on it. We do have lots of time, so we can take as long as we kind of need to explain those pieces. But the real purpose of the panel is really to hear from kind of the director of student experience, a little bit about me, but certainly current students, so you can get their perspective on different pieces from UCalgary and the Werklund School of Education. And then at the very end, after I stop recording, you guys will be able to ask them your questions as well. So the first question is, what is an academic advisor, and what are some of the top reasons a student might want to make an appointment with an academic advisor? I'll get Cynthia to go first because I like to pick on Cynthia.
And I love it too. That's okay. So, as soon as you ask that question, the first, before I answer what is an academic advisor, I always find it interesting when, for whatever reason, students are referred to me, and I have found that throughout their whole career, they hadn't met with an academic advisor. And I value the independence there. That's great. And just probably students who come in and feel they can, that they're able to navigate this on their own. But sometimes then the reason that they've come to me is by virtue of navigating it on their own, they have missed maybe some requirement that they have needed. So I find it really critical to meet with an academic advisor who will help you to just lay out what your program is, or if not, if you've laid it out, just to confirm that you're not missing anything at all. For example, if you're in a 4-year BEd, making sure, and this will be in the other ones as well, that your non-education requirements are filled, because in order to move to the professional year, where you're 400 and 500s in the education courses, you must have finished all those non-ed courses. I feel so bad when I meet with a student who unfortunately has missed that, and that might cost them an extra year. So an academic advisor, besides being the most wonderful people in our office, most helpful, are really critical for all of you to make an appointment to double check on your program, on your courses, and ensure that you're on track. They're the people to do it, and they're happy to, and they will always respond. They are very, very busy people. I'm not going to lie to you. And, but they will always respond. So I do highly recommend that you connect with your academic advisor. Thanks.
Thank you, Cynthia. Claire, would you like to go next?
Yeah. So an academic advisor is great. They're kind of all knowing about your program. And that's what I really like about them. I like to make appointments with them so I can make sure that my degree is on track, because in high school, everything's really laid out for you and it's pretty easy to do your course selection. And unfortunately, that is not the case in university. It can be very difficult to figure out what you need and when you need it. And academic advisors also help you make that plan. They help you plan out your degree as well. I've had friends make appointments with these advisors. If they're failing a class, they go to them, say, what can I do? Can you help me in any way? And they'll help you find a solution, whether that is emailing someone else or having them email their professor. They will have solutions. They see all types of students. And that is really comforting when you're talking with these advisors, that they have seen all these kinds of academic problems. So it doesn't have to be just your degree. It could be if you're struggling in a specific class. And that is all I have to say about this.
That's great. Thank you. Caitlin?
Ooh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I think Cynthia and Claire kind of covered it pretty well. Yeah, I did not utilize academic advisors as much as I should have in my first degree. It would have made things a lot smoother. It would have made registering for courses and eventually registering to graduate a lot easier. But now in the education program, because the advisors are they're so communicative, they let you know that they're there to help. They let you know what they can help with. They genuinely want you to succeed. I definitely recommend using that resource. They're there to help you. They're there to make sure that you are on track. And yes, especially in education when classes can be so specific. So there'll be one kind of main class, but then there'll be like 0.19, 0.18. That's very, very specific to your specialization. And some classes have different registration times than other main ones, which can cause a bit of a scare, like, oh, it won't let me enroll in this class that I need. And they're there to help you. They're there to answer all those questions, make sure that, again, once you have our time to graduate, you're not realizing, oh, I forgot that I had to take a class. I'm going to be here longer than I expected. But yeah, and again, the education advisors are fantastic. The best people I've ever spoken to in the university, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to start off with that question because, I like to just, pump my own tires. No, I'm kidding. No, I think it's important for everyone to know what advisors do because similar to you, Caitlin, I did not use academic advisors for probably the first 2-3 years of my my undergrad. And then, coming closer to your last year, like I've actually missed a few actually required courses for graduation, and it did make me have to take some spring and summer courses. And I didn't want to do that when I was in my first program, but I did. And I was able to graduate on time with the support when I was in my undergrad. But yeah, if you have any questions at all, I would usually say start with an academic advisor, and it's just like I just don't know where to get this resource or how can I do X, Y, and Z. Come in and chat with us, and maybe I'd like to know some more professional opportunities that we have. Through maybe through Werklund or the university, and maybe it's you go chat with the ESA, or maybe you're struggling with some piece and you've chatted with your prof but you need some more assistance, and maybe it's a referral to Cynthia so you can chat about your experience in those pieces, or maybe it's I want to take a course at Athabasca online during the summer and I want it to go towards graduation requirements, and how can we help you get that piece done. So there's lots of different pieces that we can do as academic advisors, and I would probably say come and chat with us first if you have a question. My biggest piece is, I would say, stay away from like the Reddits and those pieces to get your information. Sure, it's a great first start. I'm often on there and I do feel bad when I see incorrect information. The university doesn't have advisors on Reddit or anything like that, right? But I know it's a common spot for people to get quick info. Certainly, if you want to start there, chat with your friends, but it's always good to get that academic piece done through the advisor so it's concrete. And yeah, I would certainly say do that. So on to question number 2. So at the university, students can expect many changes from their previous school experiences. One of those changes is that they will have professors and teaching assistants, or TAs, instead of teachers. How are professors, TAs, instructors at the University of Calgary different from teachers in high school? Now I'm going to go in the opposite direction. So I'm going to go with Caitlin first, and then we'll go to Claire, and then we'll go to Cynthia. So go ahead, Caitlin.
Yeah, so for me, the main difference between profs and high school teachers is that you aren't really communicating with them as much. Obviously, profs are there for you to succeed in their class, in their course. But with high school, the class sizes are a lot smaller. You obviously see them every day, and it's more personable. So likely your high school teacher, knows you by name. They're there you go directly to them when you have an issue or a question. But with profs, especially with larger class sizes, that is typically a little different. So yeah, you have your TAs, that you'll typically go to as like the first in command when you have questions about the course or about assignments. A lot of TAs also mark assignments. So the prof is pretty much there to teach you the content. But there is kind of that barrier so they're a little further from you than your high school teachers are. But again, once you get to the smaller class sizes, they start to feel a lot more like that high school dynamic. You see them every day, they know you by name. You talk to them when you have questions or when you have a concern about the class, or if you're struggling, you can go to your prof and say, hey, this is what's happening. How can I make sure to still succeed in your class? And they will 100% help you. They are there for that reason, to make sure you succeed. Yeah, what else can I say? I guess there is, again, university, it's a very different dynamic than high school. So profs will sort of expect a level of professionalism from you. So it's definitely not as almost as familiar of a relationship as you have with some high school teachers. And also some profs, they see you more as their colleague than your student, or they see them as a colleague more than your teacher. So again, a lot of profs, not all of them, but a lot of profs I have, they just go by their first names because we're all adults. So just that dynamic is a little different. But yeah, also, there's just that level of sort of professionalism. Because again, you're in a more of an adult setting, you're adult learners. So there's that expectation. Yeah, that's all I can think of right now, but I'm sure, yeah.
Right on. That's good. Thank you. Thank you. Claire?
So teachers, high school teachers, they're there to also guide you. It's also part of their job description to watch out for these kids. And they're there to guide you through your life struggles as well as teach you. Whereas professors, as Caitlin mentioned, they have tons of students and they can't necessarily do that for each student. So their job is to teach more than guide and help. And now it doesn't mean that they don't care about you, because if you reach out to a professor, odds are they will care about you, and it is evident when they talk to you. But all they can really do is give you resources where to reach out, or they might be able to extend a deadline to help you out. They can't do much else than that. And then for TAs, I find they're there to help you understand the material. The professors teach it, and then the TAs will help you understand it. At least that's what's been my experience so far in the science faculty. So TAs, you can go to them with content questions a lot, but course questions, you would go to professors, because TAs don't have any sort of authority on how the course is run, and that's all the professor's job. Yeah, both usually have office hours. You can go bother either one. It doesn't mean you can't ask professors about course content. I often do, but sometimes you just know them better than the TAs. But sometimes you have to know when to ask a professor a question versus asking a TA question. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that's great. Cynthia?
I think that, first of all, Caitlin and Claire really nailed it. So I can't add too much from that. Just two thoughts is one of the differences, which you're probably aware of, is that the K-12 curriculum is under the Alberta education. So your teachers in high school, well, elementary right to high school, that's a legal document that they must make sure that they cover the Alberta curriculum. Differing from profs and TAs is their legal document is the course outline. So that's probably an important thing to note, that's really important for all of you to ensure that you are very familiar with the course outline that your professor has provided you with. Other than that, the other thing I want to add is not so much the difference But because you're in a university setting, you're going to meet many professors and many TAs, just like you will when you come into teaching. And it's really all about that dynamic of interpersonal relationships and communication. So you're going to find very many different people, some that you may be able to, and I'm talking about professors and TAs. I like to think everybody's approachable, and it's how we approach the people, but it's learning how to stick handle and get to work with all sorts of different people. So that's really, as a teacher, so you'll find it different when you're working in your classes at the university. So I think that's basically what comes to mind for me. Thanks, Will.
Right on. No, it's always hard to go last because everyone covers everything pretty much before you. I guess really the only piece I could throw in is typically teaching assistants are most often master's students, right? So they're in their graduate level program and they're coming down to the undergraduate piece that chances are they've been in that class before. So they are assisting with that piece, which is kind of nice because you can feel like they're a little bit more relatable because they're usually closer in age to you. But they probably just came out of their undergrad and now they're doing their grad. So they're in a very similar situation. And often when you are listening to a TA, it's in a tutorial versus a lecture. So a lecture is that nice big classroom. Sometimes it's like, 200, 300 people in it. Yes. But then we also pare it down to 20 or 30 people approximately for a TA to kind of go over the content again, like what Caitlin and Claire were saying. So that's the kind of biggest piece. So I know a big fear of students is always, oh my goodness, 300 people in a classroom, 200 people in a classroom. That's a lot. Yes. So you get the kind of the first content there, and you actually go into a smaller room later, not immediately after the class. Sometimes it is, but you go in with about 20 people. So a little bit closer to what you had in high school and elementary, and you have a TA leading the discussion of the content. So don't be too scared about the 200 or 300 people. There is an opportunity to go deeper into that content with your TA. All right. Question number 3. As a university student, you are expected to be informed about UCalgary regulations and policies, all the rules. What are the rights and responsibilities of a University of Calgary student, and how are they different from high school? We'll start with Claire because she hasn't gone first. So Claire, you can go first.
I was a bit scared you'd do that to me.
Right?
So I've been thinking about this question this week, and the rights that I can come up with is you have the right to reappraisals if you don't like your mark that you get from the professor, that you think there is a bias in the marking, or you just don't like your grade, you can go get reappraised from your faculty. And you have the responsibility to reach out. So you have a lot of rights at university, but it is always your responsibility to go and reach out to fulfill these rights. Another big responsibility in university is you cannot plagiarize. You can't in high school either, but it is very strict in university and it can cost you your degree. You can't plagiarize and you can't cheat. That is called academic misconduct, and it is taken very seriously at this level of education. So that's like probably your biggest responsibility that I can think of, at least. And you have other rights, probably to like healthcare and equality in your education. And again, it is your responsibility to reach out to the people that can help with these rights and issues.
Right on. Thank you. All right, I'll give Caitlin a break. So I'll go back to Cynthia and I'll bug Cynthia. Cynthia, what are your thoughts on this? This is closer to your wheelhouse anyways.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, very good question, Claire. Thank you it is a tough one to sort of think about. I'm glad you covered the idea of plagiarism. So we have non-academic and academic misconduct, which are things in terms of regulations and things that often not often, but that I will deal with. I think being a University of Calgary student, you're more independent in your own responsibility, self-regulation, and you're an adult to how you manage yourself. And so the whole idea of respect and how we would treat people, not that you do any differently if you're in the school setting, but there are policies and regulations about how we treat people. And even more so, there's another layer of professional code of conduct, being a pre-service teacher and when you're in schools. So you will be regulated by a professional code of conduct, which I think is really, really important that you're well versed on what that is. So you're right about you have the right to appeal, and I think that's really important. And sometimes those are easily resolved. But I think if you have a question, of course, in a professional code of conduct or when you're going to appeal, the first point of contact is going to your instructor to talk to that person first before you go anywhere, up the food chain. It's really important to have a conversation with that person. Sometimes you find that there could have just been a miscommunication and better understanding. So yeah, I would definitely encourage you to be well aware of the regulations and the policies at the university and your rights and responsibilities. It is different from high school because you are to be much more independent in terms of your own professional code of conduct and managing things. Thank you.
Thank you. That's perfect. Caitlin?
Yeah, I was similar to Claire. I've just been thinking about this question pretty much all week and how I could approach it. For me, I think how I see kind of the rights and responsibility as a student is just making sure the university environment is safe and inclusive and accessible to everyone. So that's that, that level of respect and kindness just to your fellow students and professors, instructors, other university staff, just making sure that the university environment is safe and welcoming, and that you can continue with your education and everyone can pursue their education in a safe environment that they feel comfortable in. So yeah, I was thinking again, there's that more academic kind of rights, responsibilities. So obviously, again, in university, you have a lot more freedom. So you get to kind of approach your education how you would like to, but there's also that responsibility that you are kind of being respectful of even your own time. So I know, especially when you have 8 a.m.s, you're like, yeah, I'm in bed. I'm like, I'm really comfortable. And obviously you have the right to do that, but also the responsibility of a student to make sure that you're being the best you can be. And also just that you're there for a reason. You're there because you want to be there and you're learning things that you are interested in. So there's definitely kind of that responsibility to even just get yourself up in the morning. I know it can be difficult sometimes, but you got it. Also, one thing I thought of was you have the right to a very accessible and accommodating environment. Again, that leads to the responsibility of you reaching out, asking for that help. I know it can be very, very difficult. Again, it took me an entire degree in 1 year after to actually seek out the accommodations I kind of need. And again, just remember that everyone's there to help you. Everyone wants you to succeed. Everyone wants you to make sure that everyone wants you to be in an environment where you can succeed. So yeah, you have the right to accommodations that can look like, we have a very good a student, I always mix up what it's called, but it's the accommodation services. So they can have, pardon?
Accessibility?
Accessibility center. I I'm enrolled in that and I still
Right.
accommodation. Anyway, they have a lot of really good resources that can look like even just quiet rooms to take tests, where you have longer times, you have alternate rooms, quiet rooms, access to technology is also a big right that you have as a student. But yeah, again, it's just that responsibility of yourself to kind of know what you need and seek that help and ask for that help. And again, I know it can be scary, but you have the right to that help. So definitely use it. It is there for a reason. It's there to help you. But yeah, other than that, just the responsibility and the rights of kind of maintaining a safe campus, and one respectful one, a kind one that everyone can succeed in. But yeah.
Right on. Right on. Yeah.
Well, can I
No.
interject?
Of course. Of course.
So Caitlin, thank you for sharing that. Both of you, I think, really helped to better understand what that means in terms of rights and responsibilities. I loved when you said, well, there's that 8 o'clock in the morning class and getting up for it. And that reminded me that, of course, unlike school, we don't take attendance necessarily, but because you can't. But I think it's important to realize when you come into a professional program, whatever one that may be, but certainly for teaching, although we can't hold you to that, it's what do you gain by being there? And our program really mirrors what it means to be a teacher in a school. So we're developing that collegiality, the collaboration, the working together, group work, so that it is important to show up. And that leaves a big hole when somebody doesn't show up. Never mind the fact that the learning that goes on in the class that helps to engage you and then helps to help you for that learning that will then go on for in your practicums. So it is important to take on that responsibility, even though nobody's hanging over your head. But I can tell you firsthand, you are definitely missed if you are not there. Now, that doesn't mean, God forbid, we all have things that happen in our lives, but it's really important to be there for your colleagues and for you. Thanks.
No, that's great. Yeah. And it kind of leads into my piece where it's not just a list of rules that you need to follow these pieces, right? The regulations and policies are there to protect and support you as a student, but then the faculty members and all the staff and those different pieces. And there's a lot. There's a big, huge document called the academic calendar. And it's not just, January, February, March kind of calendar. It lists all of those policies and regulations and all those different pieces. So there's lots of different pieces, moving pieces. So don't be afraid to ask people, what are your thoughts on this, right? And, what is, like, how do I get my, grades reappraised or homework reappraised and those different pieces, right? And how does that work? It's not just, I don't like my grade and I got a B in it and I think I should get an A because someone might regrade it and you get a lower grade. So you need to just make sure that you fully understand these pieces before you start jumping into some of them. But yeah, chat with myself and Cynthia and those different kinds of pieces, right, to really get an idea of what these rules and regulations that might kind of pop up. And, if you need some material to fall asleep to before you go to bed, read the academic calendar. It's great. There's thousands of pages in that thing. So, yeah, it's there's lots of different pieces, but just know that they're there to help and support you, and ask us questions if you have any questions at all on those pieces. Field experience. Claire doesn't have the field piece yet, so I guess we can talk about what your perceptions, I guess, of field would be, and then Caitlin would be doing her field 2, and Cynthia would have her own piece on field. So let's start with We'll start with Cynthia. Why not? Just so Claire and Caitlin can think of their field pieces. But Cynthia, go for it.
Well, what
Just your
I
take
have to
on
think.
field, right? Because you're not actually participating in field now, so.
No, I used to be the director of field, so I have a
Mhm.
pretty good understanding of field.
Mhm.
And of course, I will remember my field experience for as long as I live. And it helped me to remind myself and remind anybody that I'm speaking with, all of you, um, that they are all so different. They are so unique to you and unique to those students that are in your classroom. So I always remind students that when you want to talk amongst yourselves about, well, I got Friday off because of her. Oh, I only have to do 4 lesson plans. Don't go down that rabbit hole. Everybody's different. As I say, I remember my partner teacher who seemed to disappear, and I never really had an idea of what she thought of my teaching. And it made me more terrified. And, am I doing the right thing? Is this the way it should? Are my lesson plans okay? She hardly said a word. And I remember when my supervisor came in, she was just, commenting constructive criticism on my work in math. I remember that too. But I did well, but I always remember it, and it informed me that it's so important to keep that communication open. Now I can say that from my experience, but to ask the good questions. And maybe I'm talking also about what is the biggest challenge you face? Well, and how do you overcome it? I think it is that no matter what anybody says, for a lot of people, it's a differential between your partner teacher and you as a visitor in the classroom. But the communication, to sit down and say, when is a good time to meet? Teachers are, even every time I say this every year, they're more busy than they were the last year. And it's like trying to catch somebody that's running in and out of the classroom and with the students. And so you need to be aware of what's happening in that classroom, and how can you figure out a time to sit down with the partner teacher if, for example, you want to know, how am I doing? Yeah, so it's all about communication, I would say, would be a big challenge. Thanks, Will.
Thank you. Maybe we'll start with Claire for some perception, so like preconceptions on what field could be, and maybe if you have a worry about what field is, and then Caitlin can expand on that and maybe help you with there. So yeah, Claire.
So I have a couple friends in education, so I've heard quite a bit about field. For my first field, I expected to be a lot of reflection, because you were just observing the classroom, and I've heard that you were supposed to reflect on it as you observe. And that's 2 weeks of reflection. So I'm looking forward to that. And then for the other fields, I've heard the workload will increase, and in your last field, you are just busy the whole time. You are basically the teacher of that class. And I know some students struggle with that, but some students love it as well. And so that really means to me that field is a learning opportunity, and it's for you to grow as an instructor, as a teacher. It is there for you to figure out your teaching style, how you like to interact with the kids, and even what you want to be called as a teacher. Do you want to be called Miss Gillis, Miss G? I think that's also a big decision, or at least it will be for me. And I'm very excited for my field experience personally. I know some people get very nervous about it, and I have heard stories that are not pleasant about field experience, but also know for those unpleasant experiences, there are also resources for you to go to if you are finding you're not happy in your placement. There are definitely resources and help that can be provided to you. Yeah, so that's what I hope to see.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Awesome. Caitlin, you're the only one who's recently done field. So we need your expertise.
It's all on me.
It's all on you.
So I did my first field placement in the fall, so in October. And yes, it was just 2 weeks of pure observation. So I was in a high school and I was just pretty much bouncing between different classes, seeing whichever classes I kind of were interested in, things I wanted to like kind of see more of. And yeah, it's purely just observational. So I just sat in the back of a bunch of high school classrooms and were writing little notes and then reflecting on it afterwards. I will say that after about the first week, your notes kind of seem to get a little repetitive. Um, but no, it's a good experience to kind of be on that teacher side of things for the very first time. I know for me, it was very, very weird when I walked into a classroom and then the high school teacher introduced themselves to me as their first name rather than Mr. or Miss or Mrs. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm in that position now. We're kind of colleagues in that sense, which is strange. And it actually kind of varies between teachers. Some teachers say, no, I don't want you really interacting with the students. Obviously, because you're so new in education, you don't have a lot of expertise. But other teachers are like, yeah, walk around, ask the students questions. If they have questions, see if you can help them. Like, see how you can kind of start like looking at building those connections and relationship with students. So it was a very, very fun experience. I really enjoyed it. And I'm currently in my second field. So I'm actually just about to enter my fourth and final week. So it's 4 weeks long. I've been in an I guess it's technically a middle school. I always get confused because I didn't have a middle school when I was younger. I just went from K to 8 straight to 9 to 12. So I'm in a grade 7 classroom. And I've been teaching them English and social. And it's been great. So that first week was pretty much just observation, kind of very similar to the first field. Just kind of getting a feel of the classroom, of the students there, how your partner teacher runs things. And then by that second week, that's when you start dabbling into actually direct teaching. So you make your lesson plans, you start teaching the students, you get up there, and if students have to ask to go to the washroom or get something from the locker, you're the person they come to. And for the first few times, you're just standing there. Then you look at your partner teacher almost like, am I allowed to? Like, then you say, yeah, but you get more comfortable in it, in your position. So yeah, now I guess I've been teaching, like direct teaching, for about 2 weeks, and I'm almost done, and it's kind of very bittersweet. It goes by very, very quickly. Kind of at the beginning, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to start teaching soon. And for me, I was very nervous because I'm like, I feel like I shouldn't be teaching these kids. I feel like but after even that first lesson, it all just sort of dissipates, because again, you're in there for a week already, and the students sort of start knowing you, recognizing you. But by the time they're teaching, they're familiar with you, so it makes it a lot easier to jump into it and say, okay, now you just have to start listening to me and not your other teacher. But it's really fun, and it's really rewarding, and honestly, you get out of it what you put into it. So on the side, what is your most memorable moment? And honestly, it's just really this past week, seeing that the students have learned something from you, and even just being able, because we do a lot of activities. So for example, I had to review the chapter we've talked about in social. I did like a little Jeopardy review. So all the questions for Jeopardy were related to the content we've been learning, and they just got so excited, and they were actually like knew the answers to it. I was like, wow, I actually taught you something, and something you were able to, like, you actually got something out of my lessons, which is super, super rewarding. And even yesterday, because again, I'm just about done. I only have about 4 days left because they don't have school next Friday. And students started asking me like, oh, how long are you here for? And like, I'm done next week. And they just got so upset. They're like, what? And they're like, no. They're like, what do you mean you're just about done? And asking questions. We're like, well, will you get a job here? Or like, will you come back? And yeah, just kind of as that very new like student teacher perspective, it's like building those relationships and those connections have been so rewarding. And that's honestly one of the most memorable things, is that I've been connecting with these students and that they've been connecting with me as well. But it feels like not one-sided, not that like I'm trying everything to connect with you and you couldn't care less about me. But it's actually becoming the opposite, and it's been a lot of fun. Not to say that there haven't been challenges. I know a lot of partner teachers, a lot of them are very, very good. They know exactly what to expect from you, what the university expects from us, how they can help you. And I've been very lucky with my partner teacher. She, even after each lesson, she will give me feedback, because she had partner teachers that did that for her, and she found it really helpful. And obviously one of the biggest challenges is learning to accept that feedback as something that can help you and something that is meant to make you better, and not something that's meant to make you feel bad or like meant to be a personal attack. So I've really had to work kind of through that, and just through my own things, and being like, no, like this is meant to be constructive. It's meant to help me better my next lesson. It's not meant to be like, oh, you shouldn't be here. You're so bad. This is all the things you did wrong. It's not that at all. It's like, it's a learning experience. Obviously, the first lesson you ever teach is not going to be so like smooth. It's not going to go perfectly. That's because you've never done it before. And that's what my partner teacher said. She's like, you won't be perfect, and you will likely never be perfect. You'll never be a perfect teacher, even if you've taught for 1 year or 30 years. You're always learning something. And even, I know like for the first bit, I felt I had too big of a role, but not enough support. So it was pretty much giving you all these tasks and saying, okay, you have the freedom to do it. And then I'm like, well, I've never really done this before. So there's a lot of doubt there. I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing things right. What if this lesson isn't, like, if I'm missing things, but again, as Cynthia was saying, communication is very, very important. Communication with partner teachers, with your practicum supervisor, because they'll come in and observe you. I had 2 observations, and afterwards your partner teacher debriefs saying, these are things I really, really liked. Like, I wonder if you could have done this differently. This is how you can improve like for next time. And then obviously your partner teacher wants to, or you're not your partner teacher, your practicum supervisor wants to make sure that you are obviously succeeding in your placement, but also that you're comfortable there and that things are going kind of smoothly, and they are there to support you. So if you, for me, like I brought up some of the concerns I was having, and my partner and not my partner teacher, my practicum supervisor was just like, honestly, thank you so much for having that communication and for opening up and being honest with it, because it can be very, very helpful for them. But also just sitting down with your partner teacher and being like, to be honest, I have been very, very overwhelmed. I feel like I maybe haven't been getting kind of the support I might need. And you can even do that at the very beginning, like specifically laying out, these are the things the supports I might need, what I kind of want from you. This is what, like, obviously knowing what they expect from you, very, very important. So yeah, again, communication is very, very important. And yeah, like I said, you get out of it what you put in it. So if you see that feedback as like, oh, that's nothing, you might not get out of as much of it as if you take that feedback and say, okay, how can I incorporate it into my next lesson and make my next lesson even better? And you will see that improvement, and you will see yourself getting more comfortable and honestly more excited to teach and more successful. But yeah, that was a very long-winded answer, but I have a lot I can say about it.
It's perfect. No, thank you so much. Yeah, and with that, what I'll do is I'll stop the recording now, and then we can open up to questions for everyone else. So yes.